Hey folks, my name is Pravus and welcome to Synergy. This is a survival city builder with a truly unique theme and aesthetic to it, which you can already see from the art style. Now, the very astute amongst you might recall this is a game we actually took a look at before during the Steam Next Fest when there was a very well-reviewed demo available. And I was very impressed with what the game had to offer. In fact, my wife said it's one of her favorite games that she's seen me play in the last few months, so that's high praise. The reason we're coming back today is because the game has officially entered early access as of this week, and the publisher, Goblinz Publishing, has offered to sponsor me today to take another look at the game and show off some of the new features that are available. And of course, I'm very happy to accept that. I'm curious what's changed since the demo. So of course, as you watch this video, if you like what you see and you want to learn more, there will be a link in the description down below, and I would encourage you to click on that. In the meantime, let's go ahead and start up a new game. Now, one thing I can see immediately that is different is we have a story mode available. I'm pretty sure with the demo we only had access to the Scorched Earth tutorial, but now there actually will be a story, and I feel like we have to play with this. I'm curious what they're going to offer. Though if you're the type of player who doesn't like having any particular goals or constraints, there is a sandbox mode available if you feel so inclined. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So get yourself comfortable, grab yourself something to drink, and let's start up a game of Synergy. And here we go. The world as we know it is frightfully small. We are an organization of explorers and researchers, and our mission is to connect isolated populations. If you guys recall watching the video from the demo days, we are living in a very inhospitable world. Our oasis dried up. Now we find that we only have wasteland with dangerous plants around us and toxic water that we're going to have to refine in order to survive. Not great for humans. Now, there are a lot of different city builders out here with this kind of a theme, but most of the time when you play those, your goal is to ultimately subjugate and dominate the world, right? Make it conform to you and your needs. It could be through terraforming, other technology, farming, etc. In this game, though, interestingly, we are going to be adapting ourselves to the planet and trying to live in harmony, hence the name Synergy. So I'm assuming that hasn't changed since the demo. We're going to find out and see how we can apply that. Let's start with some very basic needs. I'm going to get myself some stone houses, a cellar where I can collect and distribute my food, and also a picker's cabin to start gathering from the local plant life. As far as these houses, looks like it's going to cost me some stone and either bark or logs. I think we can actually afford to do a mix of everything, so we're going to do that. You can rotate your houses around, by the way, but I don't think it actually matters that much except for like just basic placement. So we're just going to have something... Oh, I just set up sticky keys. I didn't mean to do that. Whoops, that's an accident. Let's go ahead and set up something here, though, and just get a mix of buildings to look good. Now, I know I'm going to need more stone. There are some little stone amalgams over here, so we're going to go ahead and use this button to rip them out. Now, we can do that with a lot of plant life as well, but you don't necessarily want to do that. Once a plant is ripped out, it's basically dead. There are different ways you're going to be able to harvest it later on. We'll come back to that in a little bit, though. Let's get ourselves a cellar over here, which you can see does have a radius to it, so if we're going to have a neighborhood, I want it all centered around the cellar. And we were supposed to get ourselves a picker's cabin. Let's go ahead and place one of these down over here for now. We might move it later, but that's not a big deal either way. And that should be enough for all of our people to gather up some resources and get to work on all their homes. Let's think a little bit about water, because that's something I know we're going to need. So this toxic water can be drunk, but we first have to purify it. So let's get a pontoon where I can place one of these in order to gather up some water, and then a purification basin nearby where we'll actually go ahead and boil it until its impurities and pollution is removed. Then we'll need to store the darn thing, so let's see if we can find ourselves, there we go, a water tower. And I don't know if this is best placed next to the actual workplace, or it does have a radius. Maybe we want it close to all the houses as well. Seems like it does improve their value, so we're going to do that. Let's place this here, and I'm going to place another one over here as well. One to store clean water, one to store dirty water. I don't think you necessarily have to do that, but that's the path I've decided to use. Let's go ahead and boost up the speed and let these people do their work. Ah, the picker's cabin's actually already done. Good. Let's go ahead and assign a worker here once one becomes available after the building projects are done. And we want to assign a task. So there are two different tasks available. We can either harvest by picking an element from a plant, or we could trim it down. Depending on what the plant is, you'll get different things. Could be some sort of a fruit, it could be something used for like textiles and fabrics, or it could be some twigs and bark and other such things, right? So we're going to start with picking, and I want to find some plants that I think I can eat. I'm pretty sure these straw trees are, yeah, they're fruit-bearing, so that's safe. There are also whipping gourds over here with water, but by the name alone, I'm assuming they could actually hurt me. Plants aren't always safe in this game, so we're going to leave those alone for the moment and just gather up from these trees. Cellar is done, so now we're storing up our food. That is great, and we actually have a story event. Okay, we have all the basic equipment we need for our outpost. The call to join the anchoring has reached more people than expected. Scientists, neophytes, and onlookers are arriving to trade for knowledge. We get some extra people living in the city. Cool, so we have extra needs. If we do not make sure that we have enough food and water production, we are going to die. So let's go ahead and set up this water tower to only store clean water. And for some reason, it starts off with a really low, stockpile desire. I'm gonna go ahead and increase that up to 200 or something. We can have up to 800 capacity, so let's try to always have something there. And then we'll do the vice versa here with the water tower. Only dirty water allowed. Let's assign a couple people to work in the pontoon and start gathering up some of that toxic water to then get stored and put into a purification basin. Apparently, I also need to get myself a kitchen. I think that's not a bad idea. Could place that next to the cellar. I think that's probably the best thing to do. And the kitchen is available. We'll assign some people to work here and start creating some simple dishes, which improves satiation. Though we need watery pods, and we also need vegetables. I do not think the whipping gourds provide that. Until we do some research, though, it's hard to know what we can eat. The bunch tree appears to be purely decorative, so no. Petrified giants, no. Giant fungus? It's invasive. I don't know if I can eat that. What about these cabbage shrubs? That feels like a decent option. Let's go ahead and start gathering from those as well and see. Aha, that was enough to give me some vegetables. All right, so our workers in the kitchen are now up to work. The scientific method. We now have scientific equipment. Good, I need to do analyses of the area. So, more people have joined, which is great, and we are going to get ourselves a field laboratory. This is where we can conduct some experiments. Where do I want to place this, though? Does it matter? It's got a radius to it, but I don't think it actually affects the houses. Not yet. We can place this over here for now, but I might need to relocate this later. So I need technological artifacts. There are some ruins over here. Let's go ahead and rip these out and grab 2 of those artifacts so we can build up the field laboratory. And then I will also need to get myself a research center so I can start getting some sort of scientific advancement for our town. And what I want to do now is actually start investigating the plant life around us before we start doing something stupid and we stick our hand in something that could get us hurt. So I'm going to go ahead and say let's add an analysis, a surface level analysis of something from a plant. How about these invasive mushrooms, the whipping gourd, and then learn a bit more about these trees that we're working with, and maybe some of these other bushes and stuff. This should all be good enough. There we go. We have finished researching something, so we know about the giant fungus. If we rip it out, we are going to gain mushrooms as a resource. Okay, cut at the base. No way to harvest, only to chop down. Well, we did learn about the whipping gourds. Do not pick at the plant, okay? It's going to wound people. That would be a problem. So these are dangerous to harvest, but we could rip them up for water, or we could trim them to get lianas, whatever that's supposed to be. All right, so if we had another picker's cabin so we could start doing trimming actions, that might be a good use for the gourds. Maybe, I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and assign a couple of scientists. A drive for renewal. Our excavation teams would like us to learn about tablets, something that was a part of our past, long ago lost. If we can find tablets, that apparently triggers a technological leap for whoever discovered them, so excavations would be wise. This is something that was kind of very briefly touched on in the demo, but I didn't explore it very far, so it seems like it's much more important than I gave it credit for. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the research tree. So this is where we can get all sorts of different technological advancements for our city. What do I think that I want, though? We could actually improve certain kinds of buildings, like let's say our picker's cabin, and that would get us vegetable preservation, so we can get more vegetables from picking actions. Or we could get more watery pods, eventually more task distribution, and so on. All of that seems kind of nice. But this is going to take some tools, some sort of a scientific apparatus, and I don't have any way of getting that right now. So I'm not sure that this is going to help me. A new cycle just began. I very briefly saw that pop up over here. If you look at the left, there is actually going to be some seasons. And for the most part, it's looking temperate and dry, not too bad, but there are going to be times when the weather really comes back to bite you. Remember, this is a hostile world. We're trying to make friends with this planet, but it's really intent on killing me until it gets to know me. And there's our completed research. Okay, so now that we have that, we should be able to place down a special new building. There it is, the Explorer's Hut. Okay, where do I want to place one of these? I don't know, I don't even know if it matters that much. How about over here? Okay, so now we get to take a look at a world map. Oh, this has been reworked, I think, a little bit. Okay, good. So now we're going to be able to start looking at a whole bunch of different regional zones in this world and try to find other forms of resources and additional peoples that we can connect. So in my immediate zone, right, the starting area, we have a smoke cloud, a dune, a strange glow, and a camp, none of which have been explored yet. If we wanted to send 6 citizens over here with some very basic rations and water, we would be able to start finding some stuff here. Not all of these are safe. I'm going to go ahead and start the expedition, but be aware that it is a dangerous trek. The expedition has now reached its destination. Okay. The explorers approach a huge tree. They were hoping to collect some stuff, but there's a persistent gas filling their lungs. Okay, we can try to prepare an antidote, and there's a random what's going to happen. We could take purifying remedies, but I don't have any, or we could run away. If I run, do I have a chance to go back? I'm going to flee, and then run away in a panic. And let's kind of jump forward a little bit, because it's kind of hard to tell just from the map whether or not I can go back there in the future. Looks like I can. Yes, that is an option to us. Okay, so let's try exploring other places. A dune would make some sense, sure. I feel like I need to get myself another picker's cabin, because right now we can do harvesting, but I can't do trimming. And certain things like the whipping gourd, I really want to be trimming, nothing else. So let's get a second one of these. Also, the expedition arrived, unknown ashes. The sand contains icy energy granules that can be melted down to obtain water. That sounds fun. Huh, do we want to collect up some plant materials or analyze the substance? I think we analyze. Okay, there's apparently some sort of a device. Interesting. We could just open it, or I could try to translate. Let's try for a translation. We have no linguistic expert, so we have different interpretations but no consensus. Risk opening the room or leave. I think I want to get the tablet, because that's what I was specifically told to do, right? And the answer is yes, that is what I was specifically told to do. I don't know if there's any particular risk, but I want to do it anyway. What are some other things I want to build up? Oh, we have a dry season coming. That could be scary. I want to place down a Hall of Wisdom. This is a place where I'll be able to start generating culture for my people, giving them a bit more satisfaction in life, and eventually unlocking different kinds of districts, which could be helpful. I'm going to place this right around over here. There's the tablet. All right, we could decipher this in the research interface. So, we could decipher it here. If there's no research left to unlock, we get a 10% research bonus. Let's unlock something hidden. I don't know what this does. Ooh, it got us a different technology I would not have known about for our forge. Okay. Use thorns in the making of tools and pulverize them to form chipboard blocks. A new task is going to be available. Huh. I'm also not positive things like the sand purification existed before. So sand would allow us to capture suspended solid particles in untreated water. Okay, so that makes purifications basins a bit better. Yeah, these tablets are pretty darn helpful, aren't they? So, now that we have an established base and we're doing science and expeditions, our goal is to get to the Chalcedony Mesa, one of the most ancient villages in the region. There's an observation tower nearby, so maybe we go and introduce ourselves. Eventually. I'm not in a huge rush. Okay, and the Hall of Wisdom is done. So this is a cultural type of building, but it also is able to do some research. I'd like to go ahead and start getting things like some cultural squares. This is going to lead to districting, which is a pretty important aspect of this game. The forest area is also now explored, and sure enough, there are some different points of interest. Caves, groves, glades, streams, and so on. All of that's going to be important at some point, but for now, I don't mind just sitting back and focusing on getting a good, strong foundation back here. We'll worry about finding the other people later. They've apparently been there since ancient times. I'm not really worried about them just plopping up on die on me because I took too long. They can wait. There we go. Okay, now we have our cultural squares. Okay, so the way that these get dealt with is you place these down, and it's going to create a district around it. I'm kind of unhappy about the placement options. I wanted this kind of close to our housing. I'm going to rip out this giant fungus real quick, and then we'll go ahead and place this thing down. There's also market squares. There's going to be other different types of districts out there, but the cultural one's an easy start. So let's place this thing right here. There we go. Okay, so if we click on this, we can see that there is a very large radius around this, and all houses and stuff within get factored as being part of a cultural district. So we can see that here, right? It's considered to be a large district. It's got 6 houses and 1 Hall of Wisdom. Plus, there's a lot of other factors that are kind of changing a development score for this particular type of district. And what kind of, let's say, decorative buildings or functional, productive buildings and stuff you place in here is going to impact how effective this cultural square is to make your people happy in some way. Different types of districts are going to like different types of things. And if I place another, let's say, market square right over here, it's going to end up clashing the radius up against the cultural square. I remember from the demo this being one of the trickiest parts of proper city layout, right? You want to have sometimes a mix of different types of districts, but you want to be careful about the placement to make sure they don't mess up your housing and then accidentally shrink down one of these districts into something unusable. So what are some things we could build that would make this district better? There's a bunch of different decorative things. Place some trees and stuff? Sure. Clay roads. But don't have any production buildings. Well, we could change this up a little bit, right? So there's actually 3 different kinds of cultural districts we could use. There's going to be the historical district, the creative district, and the social district. So more social happiness in houses, or more culture in happinesses, and so on. All of which can be useful, so we might end up building several different kinds of these cultural districts. Let's take a look at the houses over here. I haven't talked about this yet, but as you can see, there are several different types of scores for the satisfaction of the residents within. We have well-being, social, culture, and knowledge. So social and culture, we already know, can be dealt with by getting some of these districts. And getting somebody working in the infirmary is definitely impacting the well-being of my residents, which makes perfect sense. Maybe I should try placing a quick market square somewhere. If I'm going to have a lot of production buildings down this direction, maybe this would make some sense. Let's click on that, and you can see, yeah, this is where the borders here start to interfere with the cultural square. I'm fine with how this is looking right now, but now if I know I want to get some more housing here in order to get a larger district, right, and change what kind of a district we're working with, then I'm going to need to place some houses in this area, not up over here. If we can do that, the knowledge maximum, right, the satisfaction, goes up for our houses. So it is worth trying to get 3 houses over here if I can. It just means I need to have the infrastructure of extra sellers and so on. I really need my population to grow a little bit faster. That is one thing that's kind of slowing me down right now. I wonder if some of these expeditions could help with that. I mean, there's like a swamp with, it looks like, newcomers looking for tablets. Does that mean I can also get more people or maybe find a tablet? Or can I get both? I don't know. Tell you what, let's try it. Let's go ahead and organize a quick expedition. Okay, looks like we're gonna have to do a dice roll. Hopefully this works out for us. We found some sort of invasive algae, which is a little scary. There's an item stuck in an organism. A mass of the algae is up close. We could try consuming some tools or grab it with bare hands. Again, since you never really know what's going to happen, I have to assume that spending the tools is better, and we got a tablet. I'm going to assume that that was the right choice. I feel pretty good about that. Let's go ahead and decipher that tablet. What are we going to get out of the arrangement? Some new stuff. Mushroom oxidation. Okay. Do something new with the mushrooms, which I haven't had a use for up to this point, so that's great. Anything else that looks new? I think that might have been the only one. Maybe an item or 2 up over here that I've missed. Could be. Well, regardless, we'll come back to this one at least in a little bit. It's a new task in the purification building. Oh. Scatter the spores of the mushroom to eliminate pathogens in untreated water. Really? So instead of using something like, let's say, sand in order to purify water, which is another research we could do, we could use the very prevalent mushrooms to do the same thing. That'd be very helpful. I'm going to try relocating a few buildings, by the way. I had built an infirmary up over here, but I'm going to move it down here, because it looks like the market square actually would benefit from having these kinds of medical buildings, pharmaceutical factories, etc., whereas it looks like the cultural square didn't care too much. It's one of the reasons I think it's helpful to try to research and place down these squares early, because it gives you an idea where you're going to get the most value out of what you're placing. So this means I get more score. And by the way, if you didn't notice, up here at the very top, you can see a score for the city's prosperity. Technically speaking, in this story mission, you're trying to get a very high score before it ends. I've also placed down an assignment tower. This is basically going to be a way of formalizing people working on just being transporters. But it doubles how much they're able to carry, so you get a lot more value out of these things. Super worth building these. Anyway, let's go ahead and look for the observation tower. I don't have enough citizens available right now. Hold on, why do I not? I've got people on other tasks. Once a couple people free up their tasks, let's go ahead and start working on that and see if we can advance the story a bit faster. So we have arrived. There's a solitary outpost. Okay, so a family of travelers ranging in age from very young to very old are sharing a meager soup. They left the Chalcedony Mesa because it became impossible to live there. Really? Why was it impossible to live there? Well, we could try to trade for some building materials, give them some food and some water for something, or try to get the manpower, and that's what I want to shoot for. Okay, they aren't willing to entrust their lives to strangers and would rather just continue the trip on their own. Darn! Alright. It's fine, it doesn't matter. It looks like the Chalcedony must be in a desperate situation. This is our opportunity to provide some aid and maybe convince some fleeing citizens to come and join my town instead. Let's prepare a convoy of remedies, large enough to supply them. Let me guess, that means I need to get myself a pharmaceutical industry up and a-running. If that's the case, let's see, we can produce some various different balms from some of the materials we can gather up. Yeah, I need to place this in the area of my market square because it does like this particular building. We'll see if we can get a whole bunch of these crafted up. And unfortunately, if I'm going to get myself a bunch of medicines, I now have to also start trimming some of these cinder sprouts, not just picking them to get their bark. Because I need the ashy kernels that I can turn into various different medicines. I've also unlocked the ability to do some longer analyses on various different types of plants. So now if I go ahead and activate someone at the field laboratory once again, we have a new task, not just a quick surface analysis, but also an environmental impact to understand how various different things live in relation to each other. And I do want to put a good emphasis on this simply because I really do think this is one of like the big draws of the game. Gradually uncovering some of the features of the wildlife on this planet and how to either live with it or, I don't know, maybe curate it a little bit better? Here we go. What are we learning here? So the whipping gourd has apparently some applied effects within range. Humidity, well-being, and organic matter goes up. Interesting. They don't react to scattering attempts, which is basically farming, you know, laying down seeds and stuff. They just appear naturally with other plants. Huh. Okay. So, the more we learn about stuff like this, actually, what we may learn is I want to go for some sort of scattering technology. Yeah, sowing right here. We could do seed scattering. This is a thing we can do, and that would allow us to start planting down various different flora, which might actually improve the well-being of all my people. That is relevant in a lot of different ways. For example, over here at this stone house, people are overheating, which means they have to go to the infirmary so they don't die of heat stroke. I'll bet you if we were to get ourselves, say, I don't know, some humidity from those kinds of plants over here, which I know I can't place, but you get the idea, maybe that would help actually bring down the heat. Then again, it depends. Is it too hot because it's like a wet heat or a dry heat? Because those are very different things. All right, I grew up in Arizona. I know the difference. And what do I need for a cooling balm? I need to get some special seeds, which I know how to find, but resin. I have not yet figured out where I'm able to find resin. If I want to get seeds, you have to specifically dig up these riverbank finger things. If you try to trim them down, they just die. So I can get a whole bunch of these pretty quickly. That's no problem. I've also built up a weaver's workshop. So the reason I wanted to do that is because I want to know how to make protective gear, because protective gear is going to open up a few different options, not only to help survive events as I explore, but I think it also unlocks a couple different research options as well. The other thing we can start producing are rolled scrolls. Why do I need those right now? No idea. Let's head back to this weird tree with the bizarre gas. Now that I have purifying remedies to spare, we can do that. Continue with the mission. We get a bunch of seeds, thorns, and cereals. Huh. Still trying to figure out where the heck I'm supposed to get some resin. I'm sorting through my current book of knowledge, looking for anything I've missed. Doesn't look like it, though. Maybe the hatted tree is able to do something, but what I'm a little confused about is this whole during a seed scattering action, perform an analysis. So far, that doesn't seem to have done anything. Maybe I can find a way to force that, though. Or maybe I just need to do more expeditions, because maybe I can find some trading partners and buy some resin instead. Regardless, we now have access to woodworking as another activity, and this would allow us to start producing either works of art or some musical instruments. which would open up some additional cultural developments. Ah, this is why I wanted to have the protective gear. All right, so now we'll be able to start unlocking caves. I found a couple of those. One of them is over here, for example. Go ahead and explore this. You'll be able to start harvesting more stone and other stuff like that, basically treating it like some sort of a mine. That would solve a few of my bottlenecks. You know, something I would like to get is a school. That should boost up knowledge and the needs for a lot of people, since knowledge seems to struggle a little bit. Like, I don't know, the knowledge on where to find resin or something. What's this building, by the way? Autonomous guard. Oh, there's a way to get some resin. Okay, hang on. I'm not sure this is necessarily, like, the best method, but if it's one that works, it works. 50 tools to build this thing, for heck's sake. All right, it's fine, it's fine. It's worth it. Let's go ahead and place this thing. Yes, I want to start producing resin. I need a lot of rotten resources to make this work. Like a lot. Well, it's a good thing that I'm placing down a bunch of these cabbage shrubs, with the idea being that I want to have a closer source of rotten food. That way just people don't have to travel nearly as far. The more we can keep our farming close and ready to go, the better. And what's this other thing I found here? Hold on. A sand glider garage. I knew I researched something about this, but I didn't know that I'd have to build a structure. And it seems to need to be placed in a specific type of area. And I don't know what determines why a specific area. But let's try knocking down a couple trees here and make some space. It says that it is currently inactive. And I have no idea how to make it active, but it is an exploration building. Well, we'll find out in a bit. Maybe it will make it faster for my expeditions to travel, because right now it's taking like 8 or so days for every site that they reach. And it's only going to get worse the further away we go, for obvious reasons. So if I can make that a much faster trip, that sounds appealing to me. Yeah, actually, okay, it's 4 days to get there instead of 8. I think that's exactly what just happened. Nice. And we finally get to make some progress in this story. Oh, man, okay. That took a lot longer than I would have liked, but it's the dang resin, man. I was expecting there'd be some sort of a local plant, and of course, throughout the game, there are many different biomes. There are many plants that are in not in this map that I would be able to find in other places. So I'll bet you on different maps, yeah, resin is, something to just find organically. Not here, though. So let's go ahead and send our next expedition to this camp. It says it's a city in distress, so I have to assume that that's the one I'm looking for. Yep, we find some tents of the Mesa. We can provide them with some medicine, which we will do. So the Mesa is in a worse state than the refugees described. The streets are buried in sand. Oh no. Are we gonna ask all these people to come back with us? Maybe. We get some tools, and we get some composites. Actually, I don't even know what composites do. We've got composites, huh? Cool, what do I do with them? Well, at least for the city, the citizens are apparently in a catatonic state and they don't attend to their own needs. Well, that's not good. And then secondly, their incapacity to perform maintenance operations has triggered a fatal technical issues. So they kind of hit like what we call the death spiral in our city builder gaming genre. So now I've got to extract sand and stuff to help them out. Well, the good news is, one, I've got 50 citizens. Secondly, I see an abandoned sand harvester over here. Maybe we can do something with this. This will be a way for us to produce stone from water. So I guess we're going to take water, mix it with sand, and that creates effectively bricks. I don't even need that. That's the thing. I'm actually better off not doing that. But it's fine. It's fine. They don't know that. Look, my citizens are trying as hard as they can, all right? Just because they're wrong and I'm smarter than them, it doesn't mean that I need to rub it in their face. So now that we have the factory built up, we'll head back to the Mesa. We fix the sand filters that keep the buildings ventilated, so that should help quite a lot, and then rehydrating them is bringing them out of their catatonic state. Excellent. A mining expedition was sent out, and then they discovered the entrance to a cave network, and all they could talk about was some kind of lens. Now, what kind of a lens did you find, I wonder? Unfortunately, I do think that I'm out of time for this particular video, but you get a sense of just what you're able to do with this game, and how you have to spread out your city and develop around the districts and all the various different things you need to do in order to adapt to this very harsh world. It's definitely changed a fair bit since the demo in a lot of good ways, I think. Especially tightening up some of the research tree and then adding in those tablets for a bit of extra research that you have to discover. Seems like a pretty fun way to go. There's still plenty more that I would need to unlock and get involved, but for now I'm pretty happy with how things have turned out. We've got a good strong population, resource-wise I'm doing phenomenally well, and we are on the cusp of saving an entire other civilization if only I could figure out what they wanted me to do next. Well, a big thank you once again to Goblinz Publishing for sponsoring today's video. I think this game has a tremendous amount of potential. If you guys agree, you may want to consider clicking on that link in the description down below so you can learn more about the game or maybe follow it during the early access release, because I'll bet you a lot more stuff is going to be done with it, and I am very curious how the stories will continue to develop. Please consider hitting that like button if you did enjoy the video, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.